Welcome to the EA3650 Sedimentology Virtual Field Trip to Porcupine Gorge. This guide will present all the relevant geological information you require prior to our departure. Whilst on the trip, you will be taught the techniques required to complete detailed analysis of sedimentary strata. Please refer to Learn JCU for the important logistical details closer to our departure date. Please keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle at all times as we take you on your journey. We will leave the Building 34 car park at 8 a.m. on Friday and head straight to our first stop, which is the Southern Cross Formation outside of Charters Towers. The Southern Cross Formation is a poorly studied unit considered Paleogene in age and is characterized by pebbly to fine-grained sandstones with interbedded siltstones. Due to intense weathering, a very prominent ferricrete surface has developed. Here you will spend some time learning how to measure a stratigraphic section, including how to observe and note sedimentary structures and ichnology. From the Southern Cross Formation, we head to the Burrow Range Lookout in the White Mountains National Park for lunch, so named because of the exposure of the very prominent white kaolinitized fluvial sandstones of the late Triassic Warang sandstone. We ask you to spend a few moments familiarizing yourself with the outcrop because we will return here on the way home to study it in greater detail. Next stop is the Porcupine Gorge Overlook. At this locality, we can observe the thick sandstone sequence of the early Cretaceous Gilbert River Formation, as well as the marine siltstones of the early Cretaceous Wallumbilla Formation, a formation that records the flooding of the Australian continent during the Aptian to Albian. Capping the Porcupine Gorge succession are the Miocene to Pleistocene sturgeon basalt flows. This is the best place to observe and sketch the alluvial architecture of the Gilbert River Formation, including the large-scale cross-bedding for your notes and to note the contacts between units. We will return here on the last day for a more in-depth discussion of the sedimentary history of Porcupine Gorge that you will observe and determine in the coming days. Last stop on the first day is the Pyramid Campground. Here we will set up camp, have dinner and prepare for the new day ahead. Day 2 begins with a walk down the Pyramid Trail to the base of the Porcupine Gorge through the Sturgeon Basalt, the Gilbert River Formation and the Blantyre Sandstone. At the end of the trail, we will be standing on the top of the Warang Sandstone succession. Keep an eye out for any evidence of formation contacts along the way. From the base of the trail, we will walk upstream to the first stop at the Late Permian Betts Creek Group. At this locality, you will see exposures of sandstones, carbonaceous siltstones and mudstones, and coal beds. Remember to keep an eye out for trace fossils and any structural geology features that you can find. These will be important to help you establish depositional environments and basin histories. Our next stop will see us head back downstream to the contact between the late Triassic strata of the newly named Porcupine Gorge Formation and the Warang Sandstone. There's plenty of interesting geology for you to note here, from paleosols, jointing, boxwork concretions, large sandstone bars and trace fossils. This is an ideal locality to observe and determine the depositional histories of the sedimentary strata. From this stop, we will make our way back to the pyramid. This natural feature, so named for its shape, is the most prominent in the gorge and is the drawcard for many of the tourists who visit. You will be given the chance to examine the Warang sandstone along the way. When we reach the pyramid, you will be able to observe and sketch the alluvial architecture of the orangey-brown sands of the Blantyre sandstone, which makes up the majority of this impressive feature. Take care to observe how the depositional history of the formation seems to change within the cliff face. You will have the chance to be up close and personal to see smaller scale features as well. Afterwards, if we have time, you can spend the last part of the day swimming or relaxing on the sand at the base of the pyramid before heading back to camp for the night. After another night at camp, we pack up all our things and make our way back to the overlook to study the Gilbert River Formation in greater detail. A gully off to the side of the lookout takes you down through the formation. Please be careful to stay back from the edges, where you face a 100-metre drop to the bottom of the gorge. Take your time to study the sandstones and conglomerates of the formation and take special note of the sedimentary structures. The depositional environments of this formation might not be as straightforward as you think. You should also be able to mark the contacts with the Wallumbilla Formation and the Sturgeon basalts. Keep an eye out for trace fossils in the Wallumbilla Formation to try to confirm the marine depositional environment. A final discussion on the Porcupine Gorge sedimentary history will take place, so ensure you have taken a lot of notes along the way. Our last stop before we get home takes us back to the Burra Range lookout in the White Mountains National Park. We break for lunch here again, but spend more time spreading out to study the area. What similarities do you note with the Warang Sandstone in Porcupine Gorge? What differences do you see? Make sure you take a lot of different measurements of the sedimentary structures in this area. Take your time to make these observations before we head back to JCU to finish our trip before 5 p.m.